This is Blunt Talk, your source for good inspirational news only. With your host, Gino Arcaro.
Be more or be less. It's your biggest decision today. In his book, Soul of a Lifter, Gino inspires you to make the right decision. Compete on the only stage that really matters, real life. Purchase Soul of a Lifter today at Amazon.com.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Blunt Talk Podcast. We're broadcasting today from the third floor of my gym, X Fitness, Welland, Ontario, Canada. X Fitness is committed to lift in mind, body, and soul, and to the celebration of good inspirational news only. Here's real life lesson number 6,551 that I've taught football players for 40 years and college law enforcement students for 2 decades. The toughest thing to learn is toughness. Toughness is a prerequisite in any high-risk sport. Toughness is a prerequisite in any high-risk profession. Toughness is a prerequisite to survive in real life. No one is born tough. There is no toughness gene. Toughness in mind, body, and soul is built. It's developed. Toughness is a product of nurture, not nature. The good news is that toughness can be learned by any human being. The bad news is that toughness is the toughest thing to learn. Toughness is the toughest thing to teach. It's harder today to teach toughness than ever. It's never been easy to teach toughness during the past 4 decades of coaching football and 2 decades of teaching law enforcement students, but it's never been this hard to teach toughness. My main job has always been to develop mind, body, and soul toughness in students and athletes because law enforcement and football are both matters of life and death. You can get killed in both law enforcement and football. You can die physically or psychologically in football or frontline law enforcement. Football and frontline law enforcement can tear you apart in mind, body, and soul if you are soft. Football and frontline law enforcement can rip your heart out if you are unfit. Football and frontline law enforcement can spill your guts all over the field unless you spill your guts in mind, body, and soul to get in top shape physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. My last decade in coaching football and college law enforcement teaching was the toughest in my career. Students and athletes were at an all-time high in softness and getting high. Over 90% of who I taught and coached in my last decade of teaching and coaching were spoiled, coddled, lazy, lethargic, and apathetic. If you don't believe me, if you want to argue, if you want to debate, get a football coaching job or a college law enforcement teaching job. Toughness is the strength of mind, body, and soul to face hell. High-risk professions and high-risk sports are hell. You go through hell to survive, so you have to go through hell to train for it. The bad news is PMS, postmodern syndrome. The majority of the postmodern era adolescents have been pampered by postmodern parents who are more concerned about likes than leading effectively. Rampant substance abuse among adolescents is destroying a generation of human potential. The majority of postmodern parents are more interested in overindulging their children than teaching toughness needed to survive real life. I have seen the softness in both physical training and intellectual training. As a gym owner and strength coach, I have compelling evidence about the 10-90 rule. Over 90% lack the will and capacity to consistently exert themselves in mind, body, and soul to stay in top shape for their entire life. Here's the good news. There are 10% who are committed to tough training. Here's more good news. There are enough leaders and coaches and mentors who can turn the mess of mush around. We need leaders and coaches and mentors to commit to building muscle instead of mush. Mind, body, and soul muscle is built one workout at a time, one set at a time, one rep at a time. Ideological and training consistency are the solutions to teaching toughness. If you are a parent, teacher, coach, mentor, you have a moral obligation to prepare young people by strengthening them in mind, body, and soul to survive the hell of real life. Top 1000 workout song of the day, Tougher Than the Rest by Bruce Springsteen. It's a masterpiece, ladies and gentlemen. Released way back in 1987, year 18 of my 48-year workout streak. Contrary to the self-professed experts who tell you to drop the past, I visit the past every single workout of my life. The past, good and bad, lifts me. I don't drop my past. I visited 1987 all week during my workouts with my women's lifting team. I'm 60 years old. If I don't visit 1987 routinely every night, I'll be a candidate for a retirement village. I'll be getting hammered in a bar instead of hammering an Olympic bar every night. 1987 preserves my youth today. My birth certificate says 60, but I will not act 60. I don't just exercise briskly. I work out every single day of my life with my women's lifting team. Last night, we cracked the 700 rep barrier just like I did in 1987. Here's real life lesson number 9017 that I've taught to students, to athletes, and now to my women's lifting team. If it never gets old, you never grow old. Tougher Than the Rest, $1.29 on iTunes, guaranteed to lift. Blunt Talk Podcast is on a mission to reach and lift all 7 billion human beings on planet Earth. In 2.5 years, we have reached 26,000 listeners in 79 countries. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Much love to our worldwide audience. Blessings and all good things. Peace.
Join us again tomorrow for another episode of our 5-minute podcast blast and more excerpts from Soul of a Lifter by Gino Arcaro.